Hello there. Welcome back to Thriving Generation with Dr. G. Oh, it's another beautiful day, an exciting one, and we are here to learn how to thrive in our generation. Today, we have our guest with us. This person is not new to the team. We've had Mr. Fianko before, but he is here in a different capacity as a mental health and addiction therapist. Mr. Fianko, please introduce yourself once again to the team as we have new members now. So let us get to know you and we'll get straight into the conversation.
Thank you so much, Dr. G, and thank you for having me back. My name is Lawrence, and I'm from Ghana, and I'm from the Eastern region, part of Ghana, to be specific, Equiapim Mamfe. This time around, I got it right?
You did.
Yeah, I was struggling before to specify where I'm from in Ghana, but this time around I got it right. I'm from Ikuapim Manfred in Ghana. And it's an honor to be back to talk about mental health and addictions.
That's great. That's great. Thank you so much. I think this is a very important topic for us because to be able to thrive in any area of your life, you should make sure that you are emotionally and mentally sound. How can you make good decisions if you are not mentally or emotionally sound? Mr. Fianko, first of all, give us a background. You are a mental health and addictions therapist. What does that even mean? What do you do?
Well, I've had 4 years experience of providing therapy for individuals struggling with mental health and addictions. And these are folks coming in with a lot of, depression, anxiety, psychosis, folks coming in with schizophrenia, and also folks coming in with drug addictions. A lot of people are struggling with several drug addictions, and what I do is I just help them and guide them with the right resources for them to be able to especially folks struggling with addictions. I give them with the resources for them to be able to maintain their sobriety. So just meeting with them one-on-one on a weekly basis. I've been doing this for the past 4 years now. And now I kind of have a new role. I'm not going to disclose where I work, but I'm going to tell you a little bit about what I do. So what I do now is I provide psych consults to physicians at the emergency room. So I just do psych evaluations and make recommendations, for individuals coming in with mental illness and individuals coming in with suicide ideation, overdose, suicide attempt. Usually if I recommend that the individual or the client should be placed in an inpatient, that would be for, their safety and stabilization, and also, for medication evaluation. So sometimes we have folks that I recommend for outpatient services. These are folks that will be recommended and be placed with, would be paired with, we give them resources for outpatient services. So it depending on what they're coming in with. So a lot of people come in with different, stresses and different challenges, but we deal with high risk clients or high risk patients. So the ones that come in the ER are the folks that are struggling with, usually folks that are struggling with suicide ideation and suicide attempt and, overdose. So I just do the psych evaluation and make the recommendation to the physician at the emergency room.
Wow. Wow. Okay. Okay. You said folks that come in, some of us, we will not come in. But how do we know that we are mentally sound? So let's talk about mental wellness, right?
Right.
We want to thrive, we want to do well. But I think that it's very important to take care of your emotional and mental health. Are they even the same? What is emotional health? What is mental health? Can you help us?
Right. So mental illness are health conditions, which involves changes in emotions and changes in behavior. And it kind of goes hand in hand with emotional wellness. Emotional wellness is becoming aware of your emotional stresses and being able to accept and understand, your emotions. Uh, and I think that you should be able to know what you're dealing with, what the stressor is. What stressor are you dealing with? If you're able to identify what the stressor is, you can be able to identify some coping strategies to deal with it.
Okay, so for those of us who are not therapists, for us, the stressors will be the things that stress us out. So
Yes.
keeping keeping track of what makes you happy, what makes you sad, what stresses you out, what affects your decision making, right?
Right.
Please, you are the professional. Am I saying it well?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, so that will be your mental wellness, keeping track on what affects your decision making and emotional wellness. You said they are connected. So my feelings, my thinking, my productivity, what are the things that help me do better? What are the things that really affect me in a negative way?
Yeah, so because feelings, the way you feel, your emotions, what you're thinking, what your initial thoughts are, those usually leads to a behavior. And the
Mm,
behavior could be either a positive or a negative behavior, right? So if you're feeling, let's say you're feeling stressed, and when you're stressed, usually you start thinking, bad things. For example, you start thinking, your initial thought is, I can't do this anymore, right?
yeah,
I can't do this anymore. And that usually leads to you giving up easily,
yeah.
right? But if you're able to identify, what your stressor is, which is stress, what is making you stress, right? So maybe maybe what is making me stress is school assignments, right? That it could be a relationship issue, but the first step is being able to identify what it is. When
Mhm.
you're able to identify what it is, you come to accept that, wow, this is what it is. This is what is causing me to be stressed, or this is what's causing me to be depressed. So once you're able to accept that and you're able to understand what it is, then you should be able to find alternative coping strategies to deal with it. So now you know what it is. What can I do differently?
Mm,
What can
mhm.
I do differently? So maybe this relationship, maybe I'm not addressing it the right way. Maybe we should probably go see a marriage counselor. Maybe
Mm,
our ways are not working. Why not? Why don't we try other ways? Maybe the study plan I'm using to learn is not being effective. What if I try a different strategy? You're not going to be able to identify alternative coping strategies if you're not able to, accept, first of all, identify what your emotional stressor is, accept what it is, and understand what it is. Once you're able to, pass that line, you could be able to, find alternative coping strategies to deal with whatever your emotional stressors are.
okay. Since you mentioned depression, I think it's about time we talk about it. How do I know? Okay, this is me. How do I know whether I'm just sad or I'm depressed?
Okay, so let's first of all let's define depression. Okay, according to the American Psychiatric Association, depression is a common and serious medical illness that negatively affects how you feel, the way you think, and how you act. Right. So, how are you feeling? What is affecting your feelings? And how is that affecting the way you act? And
Mm,
I usually, as I said, it affects the way you think, and then the way you act follows up. It's either you act negatively or you act positively. So it's either a negative behavior or a positive behavior. How do you know you're depressed, right? How do you know you're depressed? Let me talk a little bit about some of the signs of depression,
yeah.
right? So lack of motivation is number one for me. Lack of motivation, sadness. When you're sad, you're just sad. When you're having poor appetites, you're overeating. When you're having problems falling and staying asleep, when you have low self-esteem, when you have issues with concentration, when you feel hopeless, when you feel helpless, when you feel worthless, when you have a lack of pleasure in activities, you just don't feel like doing anything. And when you're having, I think usually when you're having suicidal ideation, when you're having thoughts of self-harm, you want to harm yourself, right? When you're having, you become so overwhelmed easily. When you're having negative thinking patterns, right? So all these are signs of depression.
Okay, so Mr. Fianko, if you say it like that, then I'm depressed. No, but I think we need to emphasize how often these will qualify as depression. If you have these symptoms one time, once in a while, I think once in a while, everybody gets sad, right?
Mm-hmm.
Once in a while, everybody, maybe not everybody, that would be too generalizing. Once in a while, I don't feel like doing anything. But if that happens multiple times, then I'm in trouble, right? How often, when does it become a red flag? Once in a while, maybe I'll cry, but when do I start seeking help, or when do I start noticing that no, this is just not right?
Okay. So according to the DSM-5, I'm not sure if people know what the DSM-5 is. The DSM-5 is the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental disorders. So that's what we use to diagnose people with mental illness. So according to DSM-5, you have to meet at least three. You have to meet. There are some criteria that you have to meet in the DSM-5
Okay.
to be diagnosed with major depressive disorder. So that's the term in the DSM-5. And there are a lot of criteria that you have to meet, and it has to be, your symptoms have to be sustained for at least 2 weeks,
Oh, okay.
every day, most of the day, for 2 weeks. And again, I don't want to go over the criteria, because there's a lot, but I'm just gonna give you guys briefly what the criterias are.
Okay.
So 5 or more of the following symptoms have to be present during the same 2 weeks period and represent a change from previous functioning. So one is depressed mood most of the day. So if every day you're feeling sad, you feel empty, you feel hopeless, that's one criteria. And if you're also having diminished interest in activities, you don't have the desire to be doing things, you don't have the desire to do anything, that's another one. If you have significant weight loss, yeah, all of a sudden you just have significant weight loss, that could be due to increase or decrease in your appetite, so that's also another criteria. And if you're having issues with sleep, insomnia, so those who have been diagnosed with insomnia, those who are actually having difficulties falling and staying asleep every night. That is also another criteria. And if you're feeling worthless, feelings of worthlessness or excessive or inappropriate guilt, that is another criteria. If you're having difficulties concentrating, that's another criteria. And if you're having impairment in social or occupational or other areas, when you're having issues with interacting with people, when you just realize all of a sudden you don't like going out to have a good time, you like isolating yourself, you don't like being involved with social functioning. So all these are criteria, and you have to be able to you know all these symptoms have to be present, and you have to be able to meet, I think, at least 3 of these criteria, to be diagnosed with depression, and it has to be going on for at least 2 weeks.
Okay. So is the DSM-5 available online? Is it?
Yes, yes, yes,
Okay.
it is. If you
I think
Google
we can put it.
DSM-5,
Yeah. Yeah, we'll put the link in the description. But yeah, I think sometimes we hear some of these things and we think, no. I'm not,
Right.
nope. Mental health, nope. But once you go through and you realize that I need to take good care of myself, or I'm heading towards this direction and I need to just turn around. So, Mr. Fianco, let's say I have done the assessment and I realize that I'm heading towards this direction, which
Mhm.
isn't the best. What are some of the things I can do to get myself back on track? And at
Okay.
what point should I seek help?
Right. So if you do the self-assessment, which I highly recommend that the assessment should be done by a professional, it could be a psychiatrist or a
Okay,
therapist.
okay.
But of course, you could do your own self-assessment to kind of see if you meet the criteria. But again, I do encourage that assessments should be done by professionals.
Okay.
If you're experiencing the symptoms that I highlighted, if you're experiencing any of those symptoms, you have lack of motivation, sadness, poor appetite, low self-esteem, feeling hopelessness, worthless, having suicidal ideation, the
Mhm.
first thing I would do is to work with a therapist. So look for a therapist. Uh, I think it's very important that you are able to find a therapist that you can work with, that you can meet on a weekly basis. The
Mhm.
first step is to meet with the therapist, work with the therapist, and I think one of the issues we have in most African countries is that we don't have, uh, we lack resources when it comes to mental illness and addictions, right? So when I say, I remember when I'm having conversations with my folks in Africa and, especially Ghana, and we're talking about mental illness and we're talking about resources, they say that we don't know where to go. When you say
Mm,
we should go to therapy, where do we go? Where
mm,
do we go? I'm not sure about Ghana, but I do know that there'll be some resources out there which after the interview we'll probably just add it to we'll just probably add it to the link so that people can find out, but I'm not sure. But first step would be seeking therapy, and the other step would also be, I think the last thing I would do is medication, right? Medication would be the last thing I would do because there are so many other alternative things you could do to be able to be in a positive mindset, right? Some of the things you could do to overcome your mental illness or to overcome your depression, you could be doing, I'm not sure if people are familiar with, yoga. I think yoga is one way that the practice, doing yoga is very helpful. So yoga is one thing you could do. Listening to music, something simple as listening to music also helps. Just focus on doing things that, your hobbies,
okay.
you know,
Okay. So with the yoga, is it yoga specifically or physical activity? Stretching, getting yourself busy, getting your mind busy. Is that what you mean? Or you mean specifically yoga?
Oh no, not specifically yoga, but doing physical activities in general. Like going to the gym, listening to music, running, jogging, physical activities in general, walking, taking a walk, stepping away for a second, right? Because a lot of people get too isolated and they're stuck in the same place and they isolate from everybody. It's about time you get outside. If you don't want to interact with people, that's fine, but don't be isolated in the room. Go outside, take a walk, breathe in fresh air, walk around. Do not, I always say, do not isolate. Surround yourself with family and friends. It's very important that you do not isolate, because isolation is just, it gives way for all those negative thoughts to come in when you isolate. So isolation should be something you do not do when you're depressed or when you're feeling anxious. Make sure you're surrounding yourself with family and friends. And some activities, some general hobbies that you like doing. If you like cooking, go cook. If you like playing basketball, playing football, go do that. The thing that I would advise not to do is to not do anything. So do
Mhm.
something, put
Okay.
yourself out there.
Okay. But don't go and drink.
some people feel like drinking can take away their problem, but it doesn't. All it
Yeah,
does it just add to your existing problem. So
yeah,
yes, don't go and drink, right? Do not go and drink because it's not gonna take it away. It'll probably take it away for a few seconds, few minutes, maybe a day. But all you're doing is suppressing the problem. You're not
mm,
actually solving the problem. You
mm,
so using alcohol or drugs to do the trick wouldn't work. It will
yeah,
probably work for a few minutes or seconds or a few days.
yeah.
Doesn't take it away.
I
Sorry.
think that's where it becomes important when you said know what triggers you, what causes you to stress. Once you know that, then you can start avoiding that or eliminating that. If it's an activity you do, you can start, stopping. If it's your work that causes you to stress out so much, then probably it's about time you start looking for a new job. If it's about some friends or family members, hey, start avoiding people.
Yeah, it's all about putting yourself first, right? I think when it comes to mental illness and especially addictions, it's very important to be able to put yourself first, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes that means cutting off some people, right? If there are people that whenever you're around them, you end up drinking, I wouldn't advise you spend time with them, you know.
Or limit your contacts with them. There are some people you can't really eliminate totally because you may still have to work with them or live with them or do something with them.
Especially when it comes to family, right?
Yeah.
It's quite difficult to get rid of families because these are your family. But I think, if you're struggling with addictions and you're trying your best and possible best to maintain your sobriety, you're doing what you're supposed to do, you're staying away from drugs and alcohol, and people around you are not respecting that, then that should tell you who your friend is, because your friend should be able to, or your family should be able to respect that, you're in recovery and not be drinking around you and not be putting you in a position where it's difficult to say no to alcohol or drugs. So you have to really pay attention to your surroundings and pay attention to the people around you. I always say, if you have to cut some people off to be able to maintain your sobriety, which is you putting yourself first, do it. you know
Mm,
Always you first, you come first, especially your mental health, your mental well-being, and also your sobriety, it comes first.
yeah.
And people that love you should be able to respect that. It's very hard trying to be sober and being around people who are not valuing or seeing your hard work.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sad that some people wouldn't respect that you're in recovery and always be drinking around you, or always be triggering you with things. So you just have to pay attention to your surroundings.
Great, great. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I've heard somebody say or a saying that if you help people with their problems, you tend to forget about your own problem. You focus on the bigger picture. So I am thinking, is there somebody you can help? Is there something you can do? Make a phone call. Call that funny friend you know. Don't call the people who complain a lot and will add to your troubles. Just
Right.
call that funny friend and talk about a joke or a comedy on TV that you lied or something, without necessarily, like you said, talking about how you feel. Or can you step out and help that old person with the lawn or something? Like do something beyond you. Do something.
Yep, I totally agree. Do something. Put yourself out there. I always say, do not isolate. Put yourself out there. Just do something else that doesn't involve you feeling, that doesn't bring that doesn't make you feel depressed.
I think it's worth sharing my experience. In my academic life, there have been several times that I've been at the lowest point, right? But what I did and what really helped me is that I have a group of friends I pray with every afternoon. Every lunchtime, there's somebody on the prayer line. We call it prayer line, praying. So we will pray, and then sometimes after that 1 hour lunch break, I feel better.
Mm.
And then I'm not just saying that I just pray. I pray, but I also take action. And what are some of the actions I take? I run, I walk,
Mm.
I talk to people. I call my mother and I cry. Hey, I cry. I really know how to cry. Looking
Yeah,
at me like that, I really know how to cry. When I have to cry, I do cry. I think it's okay to cry sometimes.
it
Now,
is.
after I've cried, I feel good. I just feel good and I go back and study.
Yeah,
But
letting out.
then I do have a support group. That is what I'm trying to get to. I do have a support group, and my major support is my spirituality, my faith.
Right.
And my faith is not just faith without works, faith with works. So we pray, we talk to God, we get our spiritual life situated, and then we go back and do what we can physically do to feel better.
Yeah, I mean, support groups are, usually very helpful for a lot of people. From what you're saying, you're very spiritual and sounds like you're religious as well. So in your case, your support group, as you said, would be a religious support group, and you said prayers help you, and at the end of the day, you cry a lot, and then you, speak with your mother, and that helps out. So that works for you perfectly, and a lot of people, it would work for a lot of people as well. So support groups, there are a lot of uh, support groups out there for people struggling with depression and anxiety. So it's something that I also definitely look into. So if prayer is your thing, go that way. Personally, I'm also religious and spiritual as well. So I also pray a lot, and that also helps me out a lot. And I think one thing you said, that crying helps you out a lot. I think letting it out is very important, right? You have all these emotions going on there, right? And it's building up and building up and building up, and you're not addressing the emotions, and all it's doing is just building up and building up. So
Mhm.
letting it out, letting it out is very helpful. It's either you let it out while talking to a therapist, or you let it out in an action form, crying,
Mhm.
or you let it out, speaking with a friend and telling him or her about how you feel, speaking with a family member. The most important thing is that you let all these emotions out. Don't let it build up, because once it builds up and it gets to a point there's no room, it blows up, right? That's where a lot of people start, that's where you see a lot of negative behaviors, right? People depending on alcohol, depending on drugs, depending on, you know, numerous negative behaviors to deal with their depression. So
Yeah.
don't wait till it's too late.
Yeah. Don't wait till
Yeah.
it's too late. Take
Yes.
care of yourself. We want you to thrive. We want you to do well. And you can only do so when you're mentally and emotionally sound. So get out there and seek help, or get out there and help yourself. Be active. Take care of your emotional health, even as we work on the other parts of our lives too. So we've talked a lot about ourselves and how to help ourselves. How do we help others? How can we look out for the red flags in our friends and family?
Yeah, and one of what you could do is to be there for them, right? And how do you know these folks are depressed? When you're seeing that they're isolating themselves, when you're seeing that you see a change in behavior, when you're seeing that all of a sudden they lack motivation. This is somebody who was always motivated, and all of a sudden the person lacks motivation. When you see that this person is having some negative thinking patterns, they become so overwhelmed easily, when they're just having issues with sleep, when they're having some low self-esteem issues, you
Mhm.
just look at the signs of depression, and also look at the person and see if they're, because folks that are struggling with depression usually do not tell people that, I'm going through this. They tend to isolate. So if you're able to see all these signs, just be there for them, make yourself available to them,
Okay.
and encourage them to seek help. That's the best you can do, and encourage them to talk with a therapist. And as I said, I would practice all the alternative coping strategies we highlighted earlier, doing the yoga, music, your hobbies, and doing all those stuff. And before I probably focus on medication, medication will be the last thing I do. But also just know that there are some medications available that could help with your depression and anxiety. So after you try some alternative coping strategies and it doesn't work out, then you probably would want to speak with a psychiatrist, and they can prescribe some medications to help with your depression.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much. Mr. Fianko, is there anything else you'd like to add before we conclude?
Uh, I can't think of anything else besides saying that therapy is okay to see a therapist. There's
Okay.
nothing wrong with that. I always encourage people to see therapists, and for the folks, especially folks that are struggling with depression, or you're struggling with uh some of us don't know what we're struggling with. So go find out, go talk to a therapist and say, hey, this is what I'm going through, what is this? And they can actually diagnose you, and what it is you're dealing with. And for the folks that newly married, or the folks that are actually married, I always also encourage marriage counseling. I think it's very important that there's nothing wrong with seeing a marriage counselor, and talking about your differences. So that's probably going to be another conversation next time.
Yeah.
About marriage.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you. We appreciate your wisdom and then the insights you've shared with us today. We hope to really practice them and thrive in our emotional and mental wellness or well-being. I hope you learned something from this conversation. Please share with us in the comments below what you learned. If you have further questions, feel free and post them in the comment section. I'll make sure Mr. Fianko gets access to them, or you can also reach out to him directly through the links provided in the description box. And please, if you've enjoyed this conversation, subscribe and enjoy many more coming your way. We wish you the very, very best with your emotional and mental well-being. See you in the next video. Bye.